The world is holding its breath as tensions between Russia and the West reach a boiling point. For months, a shadow war has been playing out across the skies and seas of Europe, a high-stakes game of provocation and response that could ignite at any moment. At the heart of this escalating conflict is a series of brazen Russian maneuvers designed to test the limits of NATO and European Union security. But what happens when you push a superpower too far? The United States Navy just delivered an answer that has left the Kremlin utterly speechless. And today, we're diving deep into the move that changed the entire game. It all started subtly, like a distant rumble of thunder. Russian military aircraft began skirting the edges of NATO airspace with increasing frequency. We're talking about Tu-95 Bear bombers, strategic aircraft capable of carrying nuclear payloads, flying with their transponders turned off. They weren't just taking a scenic route. They were deliberately flying in dark mode along the busiest civilian air corridors. This forced commercial airlines into emergency evasive maneuvers and sent NATO fighter jets scrambling to intercept and identify these ghost planes. From the skies over the Baltic Sea to the North Atlantic, the message was clear. We are here, and we can disrupt your daily life whenever we choose. Imagine you're an air traffic controller in Estonia or a pilot flying from London to New York. Suddenly, an unidentified, fast-moving object appears on your screen, or worse, doesn't appear at all until it's dangerously close. That's the reality NATO has been dealing with. These aren't just minor airspace incursions, they are calculated provocations. Each time a Russian jet buzzes a NATO warship or flies unannounced near a member state's border, it's a test of reaction, a test of resolve, and a psychological jab intended to sow doubt and division within the alliance. Then the provocations moved from the air to the sea. The Baltic Sea, a critical waterway for several NATO and EU members, became a new stage for this tense drama. Russian warships began conducting aggressive drills, sometimes unannounced, in close proximity to the territorial waters of countries like Lithuania and Finland. Submarine activity also saw a mysterious and alarming spike. In one now famous incident, Sweden launched a massive hunt for a suspected Russian submarine in the Stockholm archipelago, a chilling reminder of Cold War-era cat and mouse games. These actions weren't just symbolic, they were direct challenges to the security and freedom of navigation in European waters, a cornerstone of international law and economic stability for the region. The Kremlin's strategy seemed to be one of death by 1,000 cuts, a constant, low-level harassment designed to wear down NATO's defenses and political will, without triggering an all-out military response under Article 5. But every action has an equal and opposite reaction. While European nations were raising alarms and lodging diplomatic protests, the United States was quietly preparing its response. And it wasn't going to be a strongly worded letter. The Pentagon decided it was time to send a message so clear, so powerful, that it couldn't possibly be misinterpreted. The response came in the form of steel, sea power, and overwhelming American naval might. Enter the USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group. This isn't just any aircraft carrier. It's the most advanced and powerful warship ever built. A floating city of military technology, powered by two nuclear reactors, carrying over 75 state-of-the-art aircraft and protected by a formidable escort of destroyers, cruisers, and a nuclear-powered submarine. The decision was made to deploy this entire strike group not to the Pacific, not to the Middle East, but directly into the heart of the North Atlantic and the Norwegian Sea right on Russia's doorstep. This wasn't a routine deployment. The carrier strike group sailed further north than any American carrier has in decades, operating in the harsh, unforgiving waters of the high north. The message was unmistakable. The United States was demonstrating its ability to project overwhelming power anywhere in the world, at any time, even in Russia's own backyard. For weeks, the skies above the Norwegian Sea were filled with the roar of F-35s and F-A-18 Super Hornets launching from the forward deck, conducting round-the-clock flight operations and joint exercises with allies like Norway and the United Kingdom. The Kremlin watched in stunned silence. Their long-range bombers, which had been so brazenly probing NATO's defenses, were now being shadowed by the most advanced fighter jets in the world. Their northern fleet, based in Murmansk, was suddenly looking at an American carrier strike group operating with impunity in waters they considered their own strategic buffer zone. The Russian media, usually full of bravado, was uncharacteristically quiet. The usual threats and rhetoric were replaced by a noticeable, deafening silence. What could they say? The US Navy had called their bluff on a massive scale. The psychological impact of this move cannot be overstated. Russia's strategy relied on the idea that NATO was a paper tiger, a defensive alliance that was slow to react and politically divided. They believed they could continue their provocations without facing a significant, unified, and powerful response. The deployment of the USS Gerald R. Ford shattered that illusion. It was a physical manifestation of American commitment to its NATO allies. It wasn't just about showing off hardware. It was a demonstration of logistical capability, operational readiness, and unwavering political resolve. The move also sent a powerful signal to every NATO member. For countries on the front lines, like Poland and the Baltic states, seeing the full force of the US Navy actively patrolling European waters was a massive reassurance. It turned the abstract promise of Article 5 that an attack on one is an attack on all into a tangible reality. It showed that when the security of the alliance is challenged, the United States will not hesitate to put its most powerful assets on the line. This single naval maneuver did more to bolster NATO unity and deterrence than a dozen political summits ever could. Think about the strategic calculus from Moscow's perspective. Before, they were the ones setting the tempo, choosing the time and place of their provocations. Now the tables had turned. They were forced to react. Their military planners had to account for a US carrier strike group that could launch devastating airstrikes deep into Russian territory if hostilities ever broke out. Their submarines, once the silent hunters, were now themselves being hunted by the sophisticated anti-submarine warfare capabilities of the American destroyers and helicopters accompanying the Ford. The entire strategic balance in the region had shifted in a matter of days. The US Navy's response was a masterclass in modern deterrence. It wasn't about firing a shot. It was about showing that you could win any fight before it even begins. It was a silent, powerful checkmate that forced the Kremlin to completely re-evaluate its strategy of aggressive posturing. The provocations didn't just stop. They were rendered strategically irrelevant. Why was a single patrol plane when an entire fleet of 75 advanced fighters is operating just over the horizon? This event highlights a crucial truth about international relations in the 21st century. While diplomacy, sanctions, and political pressure are important tools, the credible threat of overwhelming force remains the ultimate guarantor of security. The United States Navy's decisive action in the North Atlantic wasn't an act of aggression. It was an act of stabilization. It re-established the red lines, calmed the nerves of allies, and put a definitive end to a dangerous game of chicken that Russia had been playing. The Kremlin's speechless reaction says it all. They were caught completely off guard, not by the existence of American power, but by the will to use it so decisively and so close to home. The message was received loud and clear. The security of NATO and the European Union is not up for debate, and any challenge to it will be met with a response that is swift, unified, and overwhelming. The game has changed, the board has been reset, and the silence from Moscow is the loudest testament to that fact. What do you think about this powerful display of naval diplomacy? Was it a necessary show of force or a risky escalation? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this breakdown insightful, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into global security and military strategy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.